talk about USA basketball. Did a video yesterday afternoon late that Caitlin Clark is among a number of participants that's headed to the senior training camp for Team USA. Now, I would assume, right? Oh, they've learned all kinds of lessons after failing to put Caitlin Clark on Team USA during the...
Expectations were high that the organization had finally learned from its past errors, yet the reality quickly shattered that hope. When Caitlin Clark was excluded from Team USA, chaos erupted across the league, undermining any confidence that real progress was being made. Fans had barely begun celebrating her long-awaited invitation to the senior training camp when a new promotional graphic surfaced. What was supposed to be a celebratory announcement immediately backfired. The one star everyone eagerly wanted to see was glaringly absent. The most influential, game-changing player in women's basketball was left out, sending a strong message of deliberate disrespect. It felt like a calculated public sidelining, igniting an explosive controversy and leaving fans outrageously furious. This wasn't a minor mistake. It came across as a bold, intentional statement, and the total silence from officials made the misstep feel even more obvious, painfully frustrating, and impossible to ignore.
Now, I would assume, right? Oh, they've learned all kinds of lessons after failing to put Caitlin Clark on Team USA during the Olympics. By the way, of which the guy that runs the 2028 Olympics, he come out and said he thought it was a terrible idea leaving her off the team. Adam Silver said, hey, I think this was an opportunity that they could have had to have grown women's sports. Something that I and many other Caitlin Clark fans also said. Do you want to grow the sport? Do you want to...
Right from the very beginning, it's obvious this isn't an isolated mistake. They've repeated these missteps before, and the frustration still hangs heavily over fans. The Olympic roster disaster remains a painful reminder of when Caitlin Clark was shockingly left out, despite overwhelming public support. Many had sincerely believed, perhaps too optimistically, that USA basketball had learned from that humiliating backlash and taken meaningful lessons from it. Yet now, we're faced with another baffling, short-sighted decision that pushes women's sports even further into the shadows. The pattern is glaringly clear and impossible to ignore. Instead of recognizing Caitlin Clark's massive, record-breaking popularity as a tremendous asset, the organization treats it like a threat or inconvenient complication. This is a major strategic failure, one that saps momentum from the sport, hinders long-term growth, and leaves fans questioning why such an unmistakable opportunity keeps being squandered so recklessly.
And confusing everyone. Something that I and many other Caitlin Clark fans also said. Do you want to grow the sport? Do you want to... I said NBC should have been furious that she was not on the Olympic team. They would have shattered... They might have shattered potentially basketball, actual Olympic basketball records, maybe outside of the old Dream Team kind of records, right? Back when television ratings in general were just higher because there was no streaming services, yada, yada, yada. But you get my point. It'd have been a huge rating.
From the very beginning, top voices across the global sports world were condemning the original Olympic snub. Even the leader of the 2028 Olympic Games, a figure whose role is to inspire worldwide engagement, publicly called leaving Caitlin Clark off the roster a disastrous, short-sighted mistake. Shortly afterward, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver echoed the same warning, emphasizing just how massive the lost opportunity was for growing women's basketball on a global stage. These weren't casual opinions or offhand social media remarks. They were precise, authoritative critiques coming from the highest levels of the sports world, highlighting just how disconnected USA basketball's decision-making had become. Advice from top leadership couldn't have been clearer, yet it was completely ignored, a misstep that cost the organization not just massive ratings but critical momentum as well.
Instead, they continue to treat Caitlin Clark like she's a leper. What are we doing? What are we doing? The WNBA, Team USA, I don't understand. When I did my video last night, I had not seen this. Shit, I got up this morning and I've seen it now. And we'll get to the reaction. By the way, heads up, Christine Brennan's the one that really caught my eye on this. And,
imagine the level of frustration NBC must have felt. It had to be overwhelming, because the missed potential was truly staggering. If Caitlin Clark had been included on that Olympic roster, television ratings would likely have soared to historic heights. Viewership could have rivaled the legendary Dream Team era, especially considering how modern audiences now consume streaming and digital media. Instead of seizing that once-in-a-generation opportunity, it was carelessly ignored. The chance for record-breaking numbers sat untouched, like a priceless gift nobody bothered to open. This wasn't merely a boost for women's basketball, it was a guaranteed ratings juggernaut for broadcasters, loaded with both cultural significance and enormous financial impact. Letting it slip away so easily was shocking. It was a short-sighted choice that erased millions in potential revenue, exposure, and long-term momentum, precisely when the sport needed a major breakthrough.
Would have had added the photo of one other player to this graphic, but no. I'm gonna keep it real. She's the only player I'd have put on that graphic. The only player. I mean, at some point, this women's basketball has got to quit worrying about hurting people's little feelings. Siri, do you want to grow or do you not want to grow? I mean, you put Kaylee Copper, okay, Kelsey Plum, and I'm guessing this is probably Chelsea Gray, right?
What truly ignited fan outrage this time was a sharp, widely circulated post from veteran sports journalist Christine Brennan. She pointed out something painfully obvious yet hugely damaging. If USA Basketball genuinely wanted to grow the game and attract new fans, Caitlin Clark should have been the first and most prominent face on every promotional graphic they released. Her message was clear, direct, and absolutely undeniable. The post went viral almost immediately, racking up over 250,000 views and putting USA Basketball in a visibly uncomfortable, defensive position. It served as undeniable proof that the public could clearly see the huge gap between what the organization claims to support and what it actually practices. The disconnect was impossible to overlook. I remember staring at that graphic myself. It practically shouted the problem. Yes, it featured talented stars like Kelsey Plum and Chelsea Gray, but the player who should have been front and center was completely missing. Caitlin Clark's absence was so glaring it felt deliberate, and honestly, it made me visibly frustrated just looking at it. The entire situation is nothing short of astonishing. Let's lay it out clearly, because the facts speak volumes on their own. USA Women's Basketball recently revealed that 18 athletes will take part in the December 12th to 14th training camp in Durham, North Carolina. Yet the real story isn't the camp itself, it's the fallout from past decisions. One major reason women's basketball ratings dipped during the last Olympics was straightforward: fans actively staged a boycott after Caitlin Clark was excluded from the roster. The athlete who had become the undeniable face of the sport was suddenly absent, and the audience's reaction was immediate and intense. Frustration was visible across every corner of social media. Fans flooded platforms with comments like, "Who are these players again?" Not because the other athletes lacked talent, but because the global superstar, the one bringing millions of new fans into the sport, was completely absent. This isn't about disrespecting anyone. It's about recognizing a once-in-a-generation phenomenon and appreciating just how much she drives the growth of women's basketball. Yet USA Basketball continues prioritizing internal politics over common sense, refusing to highlight their most marketable, influential, and recognizable player. It's a baffling strategy, one that directly contradicts the growth and visibility they claim to want. Honestly, the backlash was entirely predictable. That first Olympic snub had real, measurable consequences. Fans didn't just voice complaints, many stopped watching altogether. Viewership for those games dropped sharply, and the decline was directly tied to Caitlin Clark being left off the roster. To grasp just how intense this situation became, you have to consider what unfolded immediately after that Olympic exclusion. Fans weren't merely upset, many openly boycotted the event because Caitlin Clark was left off the roster. I remember how huge that story was on this channel. It dominated conversations across every platform. Christine Brennan's viral post only added fuel to the fire. Garnering well over 250,000 views, it drew massive attention, while it appeared that USA Basketball tried to quietly step back from the discussion. This wasn't just a handful of fans complaining online, it was a clear, measurable response from a deeply loyal fan base, sending an unmistakable message. Yet despite all that evidence, USA Basketball acted as if none of it mattered. Now, with this latest controversy, the risk of alienating even more fans, and seeing ratings collapse once again, is extremely high. It almost seems like they are determined to repeat the same costly mistakes, regardless of the consequences. You're far from alone in feeling that way. The backlash grew so intense that USA Basketball actually began removing some of their own social media posts featuring the controversial graphic. While the main post remains, it's now buried under a flood of harsh comments and relentless criticism. Their attempt to backpedal, without issuing a genuine apology, says it all. They clearly recognize a major storm is brewing and are scrambling to control the narrative. But in today's fast-paced digital world, deleting posts solves nothing. It only makes the original mistake appear even worse, amplifying the error and deepening public frustration. The missed opportunity to capitalize on women's basketball during the 2024 Olympics was already a significant setback, and this ongoing debacle shows they still haven't learned a single meaningful lesson. At this stage, it's painfully clear that nothing has changed, the same old mindset is still firmly in control. USA Basketball keeps pushing back against the Caitlin Clark phenomenon as if it's a threat, rather than recognizing it as the single greatest asset the sport has seen in years. Fans felt that frustration intensely during the last Olympics. I didn't tune in without Clark, and now that she's involved, I absolutely will. Millions of others feel the exact same way. For decades, USA Basketball has claimed to prioritize two main goals, winning medals and expanding the sport's global reach. While they continue to succeed at the first, they are failing miserably at the second. By repeatedly sidelining the athlete who has brought unprecedented international attention, they're actively undermining their long-term growth. It's almost as if they're intentionally resisting the enormous momentum she generates, clinging to outdated strategies while the rest of the world moves boldly forward. Critics have increasingly pointed to past decisions as clear evidence of a deeper, systemic problem. Diana Taurasi holding a roster spot while barely playing became a symbolic example of how established names are consistently prioritized over rising stars who actually drive audience growth. The conversation becomes even more uncomfortable when people suggest there might be a double standard applied to Clark, quiet claims that she simply doesn't fit the preferred mold. Whether those whispers hold any truth or not, the perception alone is deeply damaging. The reality is straightforward. Caitlin Clark is the most internationally recognized and influential player in women's basketball today. Ignoring her massive appeal isn't just a misstep, it's pure self-sabotage. Fans overwhelmingly feel that certain decision-makers inside the system simply cannot accept that she's the main reason millions of new viewers are tuning in. Let's face it, the situation has become so ridiculous that some fans are now questioning whether the new coach feels threatened by Caitlin Clark's meteoric rise. The numbers speak for themselves. After that first Olympic snub, viewership for Indiana Fever games plummeted by more than 50%. This isn't speculation, it's hard data proving just how much national attention she commands. Leaving the most famous female athlete on the planet off a promotional graphic isn't a minor mistake. It's a catastrophic blunder that defies even the most basic principles of marketing. It forces everyone to ask, what are they even thinking? The blueprint for success is right there, in plain sight, yet they keep stumbling past it as if they're deliberately choosing failure. There's no sugarcoating it, leaving Caitlin Clark off the final roster again would ignite an unprecedented backlash. It would prove that USA Basketball hasn't learned a single lesson, and the long-term consequences for women's basketball could be severe. The stakes are too high to stay silent. Fans, advocates, and supporters of the game must unite, make their voices heard, and demand that Clark receives the recognition and spotlight she has undeniably earned. Call, post, tweet, and flood social media, let USA Basketball know the world is watching, and make sure they act before it's too late.